When we're writing a paragraph, we want to make sure that we have a space right here at the beginning. This is our indent, and we want to make sure that we have a nice straight line going down the side of our margin. Okay, so let's read this together. In the book, Midnight on the Moon, Jack and Annie need to find a fourth M thing in order to free their friend Morgan Le Fay from a spell. In the beginning, they find the mouse Peanut sitting on a book about the moon in their magic treehouse, and they have to use that book to figure out what the fourth M thing is. First, they point to the picture of the moon in the book, and they say out loud that they wish to go there. Next, they and their treehouse disappear from Pennsylvania and reappear inside a moon base on the moon in the future. After that, Jack and Annie put on spacesuits and explore the moon. They meet a moon man who draws a map of a constellation for them. Jack and Annie think the map is the fourth M thing, but they are wrong. In the end, they realize that the map shows the outline of a mouse, and they figure out that the mouse Peanut is the fourth M thing. In fact, Peanut is Morgan. Now that they have all four M things, Morgan is freed from the spell, and Jack and Annie can return to Pennsylvania. So there is our summary written as a paragraph. It has an introduction, the problem at the beginning, events in the middle, a solution, and a conclusion. Let's take a little closer look at this paragraph. Here you can see that I have highlighted in yellow some words. These words are what I call transition words. Transition words are words that help us change from one thing to something else. So here, in the beginning, this is letting the reader know that we are changing from the introduction of the story to letting the reader know what happens in the beginning. This word first is letting the reader know what is the first thing the characters do to try and solve the problem. In the beginning is telling us what the problem is. First is telling us what is the first thing the characters do to try and solve the problem. You see here we have first, next, and after that. These transition words are helpful to put at the beginning of the different events because these events need to happen in order. They need to point to the picture of the moon in the book first before their treehouse can disappear. This is what happens next. And their treehouse needs to go to the moon before they can put on their space suits and explore the moon. So first, next, and after that are helping the reader know that these events are happening in order. We explain what happens first, and then when we say next, we're telling the reader, okay, I'm done telling you about this event, and now I'm going to tell you about the next event. And when we say after that, we're telling the reader, okay, I'm done telling you about this event, and now I'm going to tell you about the next one. It helps it make more sense for the reader, makes it easier for them to follow. In the end is a good transition for letting the reader know, okay, we're to the end of the story. I'm about to tell you what the solution is. And in fact, is another type of transition as well. Another one that I like to use for the conclusion is, as you can see, as you can see. This is one that I often use for my conclusion. I might say, as you can see. A fancy one that I sometimes use is hence. So this was looking at the transition words in our paragraph. Here we're looking at the prepositional phrases that are in this paragraph. I have highlighted them in, I don't know if that's pink or purple. A prepositional phrase is a group of words that begins with a preposition. So here's the word preposition. I'm going to add AL and write phrase, prepositional phrase. So a prepositional phrase is going to begin with a preposition, and then it's going to end with a noun. And all together, this group of words will be a phrase that we call a prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase either answers the question, where, or when, or which one. So a prepositional phrase can act like an adjective or like an adverb. It will give us important information in the sentence. So if you are good at recognizing prepositions, you will be good at finding prepositional phrases. In is a preposition, so is from, on, about, to, of, inside, on, in, of, for. These are prepositions. They're little words. And after them, we find a noun. And then together, it becomes a prepositional phrase. So we have in the book, from a spell. Where is Peanut sitting? On a book. What is the book about? About the moon. Where are they? In their magic tree house. More information about this picture. It is of the moon. Where is the picture? In the book. Where does the tree house disappear from? From Pennsylvania. Where does it reappear? Inside a moon base. Where is the moon base? On the moon. When is it there? In the future. The moon man draws a map of what? Of a constellation. For who? For them. The map shows an outline of what? Of a mouse. Morgan is freed from what? From the spell. Jack and Annie can return where? To Pennsylvania. So you can see all of these prepositional phrases are very important. They give a lot of important information about where and when things are happening. Here we see how we can use a phrase that begins with to and then has a verb after it. We can see to find, to free, to figure out, to go. This type of phrase is not acting as the verb in the sentence. It's a little tricky because we know that find and figure out and free and go are verbs. But when we put the word to in front of it, then this phrase will just be giving us important information in the sentence. On this page, we are looking at something called the appositive phrase. I always spell appositive wrong. I think that's right. Appositive phrase. The appositive phrase is when, right after we say a noun, we want to say the noun again. We want to restate it using different words. And when we do that, we need to put a comma before and after it. So the noun here is book. but we want to be more specific about which book. We want to give the name of the book, which is Midnight on the Moon. So we put a comma before it and a comma after it. Here, the noun is friend. They want to free their friend, but we want to be more specific about which friend. So we say Morgan Le Fay. Friend and Morgan Le Fay are the same person. So we put a comma before Morgan and a comma after her. Here, the noun is mouse, but we want to be more specific and give the name of the mouse. The mouse and peanut are the same thing. So we put the comma before peanut and the comma after peanut. And here we do the same thing with peanut the mouse again. The mouse and peanut are the same thing. So we put the comma before peanut and after peanut. When we put a comma before something and after something, we're telling the reader that we could take that right out of the sentence, that piece that's in between those two commas. We could take it right out of the sentence and the sentence would still be a correct, understandable sentence. But the information between those commas gives us some helpful and useful information. It's kind of extra information where we are being more specific about something. So here we use commas when we have an appositive phrase, which means we have a noun, and then we're saying that same noun again using different words, usually more specific. It could be the name of it or a phrase, a group of words that's describing exactly what it is. But that phrase or word, that appositive phrase, we're going to put a comma before it and after it. On this page, we are looking at where the compound sentences are. A compound sentence is when we take two sentences and we glue them together into one compound sentence. So our compound sentence would have our subject and our verb, and then we would have another subject and another verb. Those are our two sentences. It'd be a period at the end of each one. And then what we would do is we would turn this first period into a comma. And right here, we would either put and or but or so. And this is going to be the glue that glues those two sentences together. So this is called a compound sentence. This first one could be a sentence all by itself. And this one could also be a sentence all by itself. But we want to stick them together using and or but or so. And so we turn this first period into a comma. We add that glue. It's called a conjunction. And then we have the second sentence. So we have done that here several times. You can see that we took the sentence here where Jack and Annie find the mouse, comma, and they have to use that book. They find the mouse sitting on a book, and they have to use that book. So that's a compound sentence. The first subject is here, they, and what are they doing? They're finding the mouse sitting on a book. And the next subject is also they, and what are they doing? They have to use that book. So there's two sentences that we combined using comma and. In this first event, first, they point to the picture of the moon in the book and they say out loud that they wish to go there. So in our first sentence, it's they, that's our subject, and they're pointing to the picture of the moon in the book. And then our next sentence is they, and what are they doing? They say something out loud. So those are the two sentences, and we combine them with comma and. In this event here, Jack and Annie think the map is the fourth M thing, but they are wrong. Our first sentence is, the subject is Jack and Annie. What are they doing? They're thinking. In our next sentence, it's they. What are they doing? Well, they are. Are is and are verbs. They are. So Jack and Annie think is number 1. They are is number 2. And we combine those with comma, but. In our solution, they realize that the map shows the outline of a mouse, and they figure out that the mouse, Peanut, is the 4th M thing. So our subject is they. What are they doing here? They're realizing something. In the next sentence, they, what are they doing? They're figuring out something. So those are the 2 sentences, and we connect them with comma and. And then in our conclusion, Peanut is right here. Now that they have all 4 M things, this is sort of an introduction to the sentence. So it starts here. Morgan is freed from the spell, and Jack and Annie can return to Pennsylvania. So our subject is Morgan, and our verb is. And then in the next sentence, Jack and Annie is our subject, and can return is the verb. So we connect those with comma and. So Morgan is, and then Jack and Annie can return. Morgan is the first, Jack and Annie can return is the second. So when we are combining 2 sentences into one compound sentence, we need to turn the period from the first sentence into a comma. So that's a reason for using a comma. When we have an appositive phrase, such as friend, Morgan Le Fay, book, name of the book, mouse, named Peanut, we need to use a comma before and after that word or group of words that's restating who that thing or person is. When we are beginning a sentence with a transition phrase or a transition word, we need to put a comma after that. So there's a comma after in the beginning, a comma after first, a comma after next, a comma after that, a comma after in the end. So if we are beginning a sentence with a transition word or phrase, we need to use a comma after that. And with prepositional phrases, if we begin a sentence with a prepositional phrase, like in the book, we need to put a comma after that. So there are a few reasons why we need to use commas. After a transition word at the beginning of a sentence, after a prepositional phrase at the beginning of a sentence, before and after an appositive phrase or word that is restating what someone or something is, and when we are making a compound sentence. So here is our final summary. That's what our paragraph looks like. We can see that we have a nice straight line right here coming down. That line is referred to as, this line right here is referred to as the margin. It should be nice and straight. But when we start the first word of the first sentence of our paragraph, we should have a space right here. And this space is called the indent. We can count the paragraphs on a page in a book by counting those indents. The indents are easy to see. So here's our summary, and it came from our story map. So we just fill out our story map, and then we copy it over in a paragraph. And that is how we write a summary. Thanks for reading this book with me and for seeing how we can write that summary at the end using a story map. Bye.